March 13th, 2006. The trial of the Mafia Cops began. Outside court, Louis Ippolito declared his innocence.
I was a very highly decorated cop. I worked very hard my whole life, and I just want the people to know that I'm not the person that they're portraying me.
On April 6, 2006, after just 10 hours of deliberation, the jury returned a verdict. Louis Ippolito and Stephen Caracappa were guilty on all counts.
That's an excerpt from a documentary on the Biography Channel about two NYPD cops who worked for the Mafia. That case, as you might expect, became known as the Mafia Cops. And as you saw in that excerpt, those two police officers were found guilty. After exhausting their appeals, they were sentenced to life in prison plus 80 years. For decades, police departments have been accused of losing trust within their communities, and cases like the Mafia Cops, as well as more recently what went on in Ferguson, Missouri, and back in New York, may have added to that mistrust. For more on the Mafia Cops and what is happening in the here and now, we are so pleased to have with us right now two retired NYPD detectives, Frank DeMarco, who you see screen left, and John Miller, who is screen right. Frank, I noticed when you were watching the excerpt from that documentary, when we heard the one officer say he was highly decorated, you were laughing at what he had to say. I take it your inside knowledge, you were reacting to what you found out about these guys.
Well, both of those were criminals before they became police, and then they were police criminals. That's what they were. They had nothing to do with the police department. I think they just wanted a job with a 20-year retirement. But they were crooks from the day they started to the day they were arrested.
They carried a piece of metal. They carried badges. But they never subscribed to the honor code of the New York City Police Department.
Well, mindful of that, to root these guys out, John, I'm interested in what the investigation entailed. Did you guys have to go undercover with the mob, or how did you finally find out about these guys?
Well, it's a long process. Frank did most of the work on the bypass gang. At the time, I was undercover, and Mr. Caracappa was assigned to the unit I was assigned to. And Franco reinforced this, but we had a lot of suspicions. You know how a police officer works, and when you see something that's not normal, it starts to ring a bell.
And Frank, in your undercover role, first of all, that whole notion of going undercover and dealing with the mob, I mean, how were you able to function and do that kind of work?
Well, in this particular case, the bypass gang was more like an overt criminal investigation using wiretaps and mobile surveillance cameras and etc. Very few, we never penetrated that particular crime family and Caracappa and Ippolito, because both those guys had a tap into the information that was about the investigation. During the course of that investigation, there were like maybe 4 or 5 informants that were killed. And my informant was shot about 6, 7 times in the head, and luckily he lived.
Wow, he survived that?
He survived. And
was he able to testify against these?
He testified in that federal trial that convicted them, helped convict them.
In the final analysis, John, the wiretaps and the body of evidence, did these guys in even as they tried to create other bodies to deter police surveillance?
Of course they did. Tried to evade everything. Their connections to the organized crime was easy, documented. And what the question you asked Frank before, how did it feel to be an undercover officer? Frank and I did many cases together, and we were actually actors. We had a role to play, and we played that role. But
it's a very different performance. I mean, it's not like getting a bad review in the New York Times. You're trying to live an alternate reality. And I know the Big Apple is a big city, but did you ever worry about getting your wires crossed, so to speak, not bugs, not those wires, but your stories as you go undercover?
I have one case organized crime case. I was the undercover. I was purchasing 5 kilos of heroin. And the place for me to pick it up was in front of police headquarters.
Wow.
And as I'm sitting in the car waiting for the subject to bring the package, an off-duty police officer put a gun to my head because he was suspicious of what I was doing 2 o'clock in the morning by police headquarters. And I just had my hands on the steering wheel. I didn't know he was a good guy, bad guy. I said, listen, I'm an undercover officer, and right now there's 10 cops with guns on you. So if you're a bad guy, step back. And when the words he said next, I knew he was a cop. They hustled him out of the way.
What did he say next? Can you edit him for television? I mean, or what? Maybe we'll leave that part of the story. Well, it sounds to me, we're going to have you guys back to talk about your exploits and, of course, the story of the infamous Mafia Cops on the Biography channel. Let's shift now to the here and now, Frank. Bill de Blasio, now the mayor of New York, is talking about distrust of the police. Let's listen to what the mayor had to say last September in an interview with Jorge Ramos on Fusion TV.
Oh, there's no question something's wrong, and we need to do better. And when we do better, it will redound to everyone's benefit because there will be a closer working relationship between police and community.
Frank, your take on the mayor and all that has gone on with what he has said about cops vis-a-vis the community.
Well, first off, the police don't trust him because he allowed a lot of those demonstrators to run the police around circles. He didn't put his foot down like most other mayors say, okay, this is enough. You have 2 weeks, you have a week, you have a day, but stop. And he didn't do it. He let them throw stanchions at the police over the bridge. Actually assaulted a lieutenant. He let it go too far.
Well, speaking of going too far, and I've just got to get 15 seconds on something. When that gun was to your head, what was that feeling in your stomach when you were undercover?
I didn't know what to do, really. I'm just saying, I'm just praying he's a police officer.
Well, as it turned out, that worked out. And of course, you gents hope the current mayor will be more supportive of police officers in the Big Apple. To you both, we very much appreciate your time. Frank DeMarco and John Miller. Thanks a bunch, guys. We'll have you back real soon. We're going to step aside to get just the facts in this Newsmax Now update.